What's going on, YouTubers? This is just a short video on the price of gold, Bitcoin, agricultural land. One of the commenters was asking about, is agricultural land a good investment? I think so, but I want to caveat that by saying everything nowadays is overpriced. So things when they're cheap, it's just kind of relative. I understand people can think Bitcoin and gold overvalued. And in general, I would say Bitcoin and gold aren't really cheap anymore. But I still think they're going to go up a lot. Anyways, I was just looking at agricultural land in Iowa because in general, that's where some of the more valuable agricultural land is. And when I was a kid, it was like $2,500 to $4,500 per acre. Now it's about $7,500 an acre USD. And just as an aside, I was looking down here, the average price of bare agricultural land in England and Wales has risen from £6,900 to £7,000. So just in general in Europe, agricultural land is worth a little more. Now then you got to look at it. It's priced in dollars and pounds. I mean, is a pound overvalued? Is a dollar overvalued? Are they undervalued? Currencies now are such a political football that I hesitate to say they're undervalued. I tend to think they're overvalued in the sense against gold and Bitcoin. I don't know. Even the stock market, I mean, everything is so overvalued now because of all the money printing. There's no good measurement of value anymore. I know people normally would say, well, what's it priced against gold? You know, how many ounces of gold does it take to buy a share of the Dow, or how many ounces of gold does it take to buy a acre of land? Right now let's see, we're at 1,800. Let's just say 2,002, 4, 6. So it's 2 or 3 ounces of gold will get you an acre of land in Iowa. Now you just can't go out and buy 1 acre, but here's what I had to say about agricultural land. I personally think agricultural land is going to keep going up. I don't know what the viewers know, but Warren Buffett's friend, the guy who owns Microsoft, Bill Gates. Bill Gates is buying up agricultural land a lot. I don't know his motivations. I really don't know. I do know he's getting a lot of bad press and he's buying a lot of agricultural land. If you study anything about Bitcoin, you will probably come across quite a few famous people talking about, one of which is Jeff Booth. Jeff Booth just wrote a book. I forget the name of his book, but he has a really good book about deflation. But he basically talks about how deflation is actually good for society as opposed to inflation, where you're constantly inflating the supply of money and creating a huge wealth divide between the elites and middle class and poor people, and how you corrupt society over time as you devalue currencies and the wealth goes from the middle classes and poor people mostly to the upper classes. And to me, that makes sense. As a libertarian, I know that pisses people off, but when they hear that, but to me, Jeff Booth is correct in that. The Federal Reserve just creates all kinds of misallocations of capital, and it benefits the wealthy. Why I mention all that, Jeff Booth sits on the board of a lot of different companies, one of which is an ag company. There's a lot of innovations coming, which I'm guessing partly is why Bill Gates is buying agricultural land. But the wealthy elites have been buying agricultural land for a long time now. It's not exactly secret, but with all the new technology coming and the productivity of that land is going to go up a lot, so the value of that land will go up. Now, I'm not a specialist on anything agricultural, so I'm just shooting my mouth off, so I'm not giving investment advice, but when you look at where we're going with technology and where we're going with society, you could buy land. You could actually grow stuff and live off it pretty well. You could even grow cash crops. There's a number of people doing it. And there's all kinds of special cash crops you can grow, which I won't go into here. Cash crops that really people don't even think about. That at least if you're in a first world country, you can sell on the side of a road and actually do pretty well. There's actually quite a bit you can even grow in the desert in Arizona. Well, maybe not quite a bit, but there's some. But in the desert, you have to have access to water. But anyways, I'm kind of getting off track. So because people want to get off the grid, owning land, whether it's agriculture or not, can be a good idea. Like if you go to Israel, you'll know hydroponics. Well, I don't know if hydroponics was made famous in Israel, but over the years I've learned about hydroponics from what people do in Israel. So you can grow all kinds of crops in the desert and do it fairly profitably if that's what you want to do. For average people, I'm not sure. Well, I can't tell. I can't really say what people should do. It's because everyone's so different. Like some people don't want to grow crops. My grandfather and my father had gardens all their lives, and they loved it. It's part of our family culture. So having a garden and growing various things and eating the stuff off our land, well, not anymore, but when I say our land, I'm meaning mainly back in the day in northern Minnesota, but that's what they did. Of course, me and my sisters and a lot of the younger people, we don't do that. Some of our relatives even have sold all their farms. Not everyone, but quite a few of them have. Anyways, with technology and with all the different kinds of cash crops you can grow, you can get by. You can even specialize in certain things and earn a pretty good living, even in places like Mexico. Like when I was a young man, not the first time I went to Mexico, but I think when I was in my mid-20s, I ran across a guy who grew like trees and plants and things like that, like a nursery, and did very, very well. And I also know previously, I haven't kept in touch. I wish I could get in touch with him, but his family bought a lot of agricultural land in Belize, and they did very, very well. In fact, some of the stories he told me shocked me because even though I think I know a lot, I realize I don't know very much at all. The stuff that he and his father grew made them way more money than ever buying gold or anything like that. It was just huge, huge profits. But there's all kinds of things you can grow if that's your passion and what you like to do. And now with the way technology is going, you can have sun panels. I'm calling them sun panels, but you can have, panels on your land and get electricity there. You can literally nowadays quite literally can live on a piece of land out in the middle of nowhere. With the satellites, you can have internet. With your, I keep calling them sun panels, but with your panels, my folks bought some and they since sold their home, but all the electricity they got off it was covered by the panels on the roof. It's quite interesting. And what they didn't use was sold back to the utility. Anyways, my only point was, yeah, for some people, and because of the possibility of a dystopian type future, going off grid and owning land and growing stuff and selling stuff and trading, that'll be one option for people. Another option is owning gold. I've talked about it before. People talk about the benefits of gold and what they sometimes don't talk about, and this is not a big deal, is some of the negatives of it. Gold is nowadays it's about $1,850 an ounce, give or take 10 or 20 bucks. You can walk out of the United States with a lot of wealth in your pocket by owning 10, 20, or 100 ounces of gold. So that's a benefit, but a negative is in most of Latin America, or the Philippines for that matter, it's not easy to sell gold. Now, I've done it. It's a real pain in the neck, but it's not easy. Another thing is you can be a big target. Now, if you're really discreet about it, I've never been robbed or anything, but you could get robbed, and that's another thing people don't talk about it. Let's say you're a millionaire and you want to walk out of your country with $200,000 or $300,000 in gold. It's such a small amount of gold you can put it in your briefcase, but if you were to get robbed, if you were to get set up, you can lose it fast. That's one of the negatives of gold, and that's also one of the benefits of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is just stored on the Ethernet or on the internet. Gold, when you buy it, you're either going to store it in your house or wherever, or you're going to put it in a bank or a vault. The bank could seize your safety deposit box and then your SOL. If you have storage in Switzerland or if you have storage in Singapore, that's going to cost you some money to ship it if you do ship it, but it's going to cost you money to insure it. and things like that. And then there's the buy and sell spread. You have that too with Bitcoin, but the point is your gold can be halfway around the world in Switzerland or Singapore or Hong Kong. So you have political risk. That's the downside of gold. The upside is it's pretty small and divisible if you have gold coins. You can take them anywhere. Well, in most of the world you can. You can take them anywhere. You can hide them. They're easier to sell in Asia as opposed to Latin America. It used to be easier to sell in Europe, but even that's changing. So there's no perfect solution. Some I can see the attraction of wanting an easy solution to make. There's really no easy solutions. The governments of the world have made things so complicated and difficult that there's no easy safe solution anymore. You can send your money with a bank wire. You can put your money in a bank, use your ATM card. You can buy gold and then take it with you wherever you're going. But then you have the problem of selling it. Then you have the problem of storing it and insuring it if you're going to insure it. Bitcoin, it gets around a lot of those problems, but one of the problems with Bitcoin is if the government were to try to shut it down, which they could, I don't know that they'll be successful, but they could try. They can put the choke point on banks where the banks won't let you cash out. If everyone used Bitcoin actually to buy and sell stuff, I mean, if you could ship your Bitcoin to different wallets and they accept it as payment, that's the one thing. But until we get to the point where more people do that, you have to, well, you don't have to, but you want to get your Bitcoin in the local currency of whatever country you're in. So you have to do that through the banks. That's kind of the downside. Another downside is Bitcoin's way more volatile. Right now, it's way more volatile than gold. That's one of the advantages of gold. It's less volatile than Bitcoin. Gold is actually less volatile than even the stock market or share markets. So it's all, there's no good easy decision. There's no cheap undervalued land anywhere. There's no good cheap undervalued stock markets anywhere. There's no everything now. We live in a world where everything's a bubble. There's no easy decisions to make. There's no governments have gotten to the point now that there's just a lot of risk you have to manage. You have to be willing to go into the unknown and manage the risk. But if you can manage the risk and if you're willing to start up your own business, that's the best thing to do with your money. Start your own business. You don't even have to buy land to grow stuff. You could just rent someplace. Anyways, this video's gone a little bit too long. There's various places you could buy land. You could buy in Paraguay. The downside to Paraguay is it's all monoculture land usually there. You can buy in Chile. That's actually an option, but there's just risk anywhere. And you don't really have to buy land. You could just rent someplace and grow stuff. But an acquaintance of mine, he bought some land in Belize. At that time, he estimated it was appreciated like 10% a year. And he just grew stuff on it. He didn't build a house on it. He didn't do anything fancy with it. And that was the easiest money he said he's ever made in his life, just buying raw, I want to call it timberland, but raw land in the jungle. And then he grew stuff on it. So that was the easiest money. He didn't develop it or anything. He did have another piece of land he did develop, but he said even just buying land and just letting stuff grow on it, because there's so much demand to live in Belize. And Belize isn't really necessarily the best place to live. I'm just pointing that out because he actually, when his father passed away, my understanding was he sold his father's all the family assets, and I don't know about his other family members, but he himself left. He didn't feel safe there anymore, and he went to other places anyways. The downside of buying land in Latin America, it's not easy to sell. But there it is. There it is. Anyways, I'm gonna put this video up. My only point is there's no easy decisions to make as far as, buying assets that are super cheap. To me, the best asset to invest is yourself and start a business. But that's the kind of thing a lot of people don't want to hear. They don't want to really hear that starting your own business, because it's not easy and there's a lot of risk involved. But that's where we are nowadays. Things are so politicized. The governments have printed so much money all over the world. There's no easy, cheap solution anymore that I can see. If you think there's an easy, cheap solution, just put it in the comments. Anyways, I'm going to put this up. Like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. Thank you.